The Walt Disney Company may be spending insane amounts of money on trying to save Snow White in 2025, and the chances of that happening are about as good as Rachel Zegler's career. Yeah, not. Today we're going to show you what our source says is actually the exploding budget level, how much Disney stands to lose, and we'll show you what is actually outperforming Snow White. We promise, you won't believe it. Hello folks, and welcome back to the place that is trying to help Hollywood make a better product that you want to consume, giving them universal movies, ideas, and entertainment instead of the woke disasters that have devastated streaming, film, and now the video game industry. Joining us today to help make sense of it all, John F. Trent, the editor-in-chief of ThatParkPlace.com, as well as host of the Trent Report. John, how are you?
I'm doing well. Good to be here.
And John, I want to give you a special congratulations as we get started today. Take a look at this, folks. This is out of That Park Place. It was by Jonas J. Campbell, but it says exclusive Star Wars The Acolyte real costs exploded to $230 million, according to new tax documents. This article has now been cited on Forbes, and we want to thank Forbes for their honesty in doing that. And it's a great reward and provides some credibility that I think is important to websites when places like Forbes acknowledge that authors like Jonas and websites like That Park Place are doing a great job pulling up these tax documents. And John, I know that beyond just this article, that ThatParkPlace.com is exploding for website readership, and you've just done a phenomenal job. So congratulations, sir.
Yeah, thank you. We're hitting record traffic here on the website this month already.
Absolutely. Breaking records month after month after month. And it's because I believe you're doing such a fantastic job of simply telling the truth. John, as we get ready to go into today's topic, which is about Snow White, we want to ask the audience that if they would be so kind and inclined, that they might consider clicking that like button. John, we're going to enter into rumor and speculation territory. I want to be careful. One of the reasons we pulled up that article is because we're going to be talking again about a movie budget. But in this case, we're not using tax documents. We're using a source, which has been correct in the past. But at the same time, we're discussing a future product that is not yet released. Snow White has not come out to theaters yet. There are no official tax documents. We're not sure that there will be. And so we have to go off of the statements from the source, who we're keeping anonymous for obvious career reasons. Now, all of that said, folks, you take this with a grain of salt, but I do want to differentiate what the website is doing with the Acolyte, which is absolutely rock solid proven. And I want to differentiate that we're going into rumor territory. So fair enough, John? Are we okay with that?
Yeah, there's probably the one correction I would add is that we probably will get tax documents from this, given the fact that they did indeed film some of this stuff over in the United Kingdom, and they are required to file tax documents over there.
John, have you heard? John, have you heard though that there may be an effort now to change the law regarding that because of some of this stuff that's happening?
Well, let me guess. The Walt Disney Company is lobbying to change that. I would not be surprised.
John Trent, Jonas J. Campbell, Valiant Renegade, changing UK law as we speak.
This is what we see over and over again. They try and hide the actual viewership on all cases. We saw this in the comic book industry. We're seeing this obviously with television numbers and streaming. And clearly now they want to hide their financial failures with their tax documents in the UK now.
Absolutely. All right, John, let's talk about the Snow White situation. Of course, Rachel Zegler is the star of Snow White, not the Seven Dwarfs, just Snow White. There are dwarfs in it now. Once upon a time, there were just dirty hippies. Those dirty hippies appear to have been sent packing. Now they're homeless hobos. And instead of being in the film, now we have CGI monstrosities. John, I am told that there have been 3 reshoots of this film and that Disney is now still working to fix the thing. And in particular, there are 2 areas that Disney is working to resolve before its release in March, which is just a few months away. Problem number 1 is that the dwarfs have been roundly mocked. And they have been mocked at the level of the original Sonic the Hedgehog model in that film. Of course, Sega and Paramount went back to work and redid the entire model, redid the entire film to make the character look like it does in the video games. With this one, Sonic. Yes, look like Sonic. Who would have thought that would be successful? With this one, they're not going to have that much time to do everything that needs to be done, and they have 7 models that need to be adjusted. But the other thing, John, is apparently they're going to try to adjust the color palette, the atmospherics of the movie to make it brighter and more lighthearted, make it more child friendly. It was deemed a little too dark. Now, folks, again, we're in rumor territory, but a lot of this stuff is really it's really on the edge of being corroborated, and we hope we can soon, as John was mentioning. John, the big story about all of this is that Disney apparently is trying to get this movie ready to go on the cheap. And the reason that it might be done on the cheap is because they've already done 3 reshoots. We know that this film had a budget that was somewhere around $300 million. They have overshot that significantly, according to my source. And this film is now headed for Force Awakens and the Rise of Palpatine. That's what I'm going to call it, kind of budget. We're nearing the $500 million mark, according to the source. So, John, your thoughts on Snow White, a film that has very little interest, and we'll show that in a moment. Your thoughts on this thing being at close to $500 million for budget and still needing work as we get close to the March release?
Yeah, so this doesn't really surprise me. This has kind of been the Walt Disney Company's MO, whether it is with Lucasfilm, whether it's with Marvel Studios, or whether it is with their kind of live action adaptations that they've been doing. They are massively expensive. They are always going over budget. They're doing multiple reshoots, and it ends up costing them a lot of money because they just simply are not getting those billion-dollar grosses that they were pre-pandemic for any of these films anymore. You can look at all of what Marvel Studios has done aside from Deadpool and Wolverine. When was the last time we saw a Star Wars movie? We haven't even seen a Star Wars movie, but you did point out that the Acolyte's budget was just absolutely insane, and they canceled that after the first season. So this is something that we see that is seemingly spread across the Walt Disney Company. It doesn't matter which kind of subsidiary it is, and that, I think, lends us to believe that it is obviously a problem that stems from the top. And this is also something that Ike Perlmutter, former Disney executive who's actually liquidated all of his stock in the company this past year after a failed proxy attempt alongside his pal Nelson Peltz, was criticizing Marvel for. It was like, these people are just allowing their budgets to just go blow out of proportion. So this is something we've known Disney to do in the past, and even their own employees were criticizing them for it. So again, this is not surprising. And we also know that some of these reshoots have been confirmed. Gal Gadot has posted on our Instagram talking about doing some of those reshoots. And I think Rachel Zegler has also confirmed some of them on X when she was not pushing her political agendas.
And I would say, too, we had original reporting right here on this channel last year that Disney was bringing a young actress back again to do extensive reshoots. She's going to play a younger version of Snow White to get Zegler off the screen quite so much. And that young star may be getting her own musical number in the movie. So an origin story for Snow White. That'll be interesting. John, I want to broaden this out before we show people just how little interest there is in the film and put this really in the middle, square in the middle of your wheelhouse. And what I want to do is ask you, we have been watching across many mediums now the idea that this quasi-religious woke movement is a total economic failure. Total failure. When we look at, for example, the difference in Inside Out 2 and Lightyear. Inside Out 2, we now believe, based on reports that have come out of Disney via IGN, that Disney was very interested in making sure that it was not perceived as a quote-unquote woke film. That generated something like $1.7 billion in box office, and it's not a particularly great film. It's nowhere close to the original. Meanwhile, Lightyear made less than what it cost to produce the film. But that's not the end of it. You could look at as well at Deadpool and Wolverine, which is distinctly not woke and actually takes some shots at wokeism. And then you look at, for example, the Marvels, which is distinctly woke. And it's easy to say, well, one of those is one of the biggest flops in cinematic history, and one of those made Disney over $1 billion in profit. John, we're watching this happen in the video game industry as well. Do you think that the industries at large are waking up to woke and realizing that it truly is the surefire way of going broke? Do you think that we've reached that pendulum shift yet?
I think you have to look at this on a case-by-case basis. I think we have seen examples where some companies have realized that this is not beneficial for them. I think Robbie Starbuck has done an absolutely excellent job of exposing a lot of companies. You can look at Harley Davidson. You can look at Tractor Supply. They're usually kind of middle America type companies that are trying to sell hardware supplies or motorcycles or things like that, right? Not necessarily in the realm of video games, movies, or television. And they've excised their DEI policies. They are saying they're getting back to just with Tractor Supply. We're getting back to selling equipment to farmers and selling actual tractor supply and doing agriculture and things like that. And we're going to be focusing on our core business rather than funding pride parades and doing all these other I don't want to call it virtue signals because they were literally giving money to this stuff because it's not really a signal, right? If you're actually donating money to it,
right.
Where they were actually promoting a lot of what I call disordered or degenerate activities.
Taking aside in sociocultural issues, like taking a positive position that goes against the traditional values of America.
Yeah, traditional moral norms, etc. Yeah, exactly. So I do think you're seeing that in certain companies. I think on the other hand, there's other companies that they have their ears plugged and they aren't going to listen to this at all. I have a perfect example. There's a video game developer called Probably Monsters. You might not have heard of them. They are actually the company that owned Concord, or Firewalk Studios developer that developed Concord. Firewalk Studios is the developer that developed Concord. They used to own them. They sold them to Sony and PlayStation.
And just so people understand, Concord is the game that was ultra woke, was out for a month, and then was canceled, servers shut down, and cost that company something like $200 million or more.
400 million is now the newest estimate on how much it costs to develop, and that doesn't even include what Sony paid to purchase Firewalk from Probably Monsters. But as I was saying, Probably Monsters is still like not even like listening to any kind of feedback regarding that the game failed because of its push of woke ideology, where it was including transgender characters, whether it was in the character designs that are obviously woke with like obese characters and then the pronouns and everything like that. They don't even want to hear that. And then we just have there's another report. I think Legacy Drops just did a video earlier about Ubisoft. They just don't even want to listen to any of that feedback because they just think it's white noise. And that's something we heard from Grums regarding Firewalk Studios about the initial feedback on Concord as well. Well, they paid the price for that. So I do think that you are seeing some companies, they are listening, they're seeing this, they can see the nuts and bolts, they can see their spreadsheets, and they're like, why is this dropping? Oh, this is why, let's change that. And they're making changes, whereas there are other companies that just aren't connecting the dots for better or worse.
Well, there's a political angle to this as well. Of course, to bring this back to Snow White, this is a film that Rachel Zegler, the star, has said that, Prince Charming will not have the same kind of role because he was a stalker in the original. It's been presented in interviews as being the tale of a socialist liberator political movement film, as opposed to what the original Snow White is about. I mean, this is out in crazy land, but it's what Hollywood has become and beyond, by the way. John, I want to show you what this has done to interest levels. And as we get ready to do that, folks, I know that many of you out there are brand new watchers of this channel. Perhaps you want to subscribe, perhaps you don't. But I also know that sometimes we say just woke in a flippant kind of quick moving way. And I want to quickly define what woke is for those of you out there who's like, oh, what is this woke thing I keep hearing about? Wokeism, when we use it, at least for me, I'm referring to neo-Marxism, and I'm referring to postmodernism. So neo-Marxism, Marxism is when you have the oppressed and oppressor classes, and usually that was based on economics. Neo-Marxism takes that and twists it and says it's based on the way you were born. And you're either always an oppressor or you're always the oppressed, and you can't get out of that because you're locked in based on how you were born, whether you were born with particular skin color or ancestry or inclinations or various things. And then postmodernism is the idea that there is no objective truth, that you form your own truth. That's where you get the whole thing about my truth. And so postmodernism is, in fact, a direct assault against the idea of the logos and a direct assault against just reality, because you form your own reality. When you combine those two together and you mix it with a venomous hatred for men of a particular color, and then you categorize that all as the evil patriarchy, that's how you get into, woke. So when that invades Snow White, John, this is the result. Folks, what you're looking at right now, and I'll scroll up so you can see this, Thunderbolts is in blue. You probably don't know what Thunderbolts is. We'll explain in a moment. Red is Snow White. Both of these are the 2025 films. Both of them are Disney. We're using two Disney films releasing in 2025, 2 months apart, for a very particular reason. You see, Thunderbolts is a Marvel film based on characters that almost nobody knows, and this trailer landed with an absolute thud, and it is going to be a dud of duds, John. Yet
Yeah,
Thunderbolts had 25% more interest than Snow White, and Snow White is Disney's very first princess. It's actually worse than 25%, but Snow White is Disney's very first princess, the foundation upon which the company was built. And the live action starring a Rachel Zegler, who's supposed to be this megastar, isn't even coming close to Thunderbolts, that nobody knows what the heck it is, and very few people are likely to go see it. John, how bad is this?
Yeah, this is really bad because if you think about the context of Thunderbolts, it's a Thunderbolts movie without any Thunderbolts characters in it, or at least none of the iconic Thunderbolts characters that comic book readers and connoisseurs know. So this is absolutely atrocious. And if you actually go back to that chart, the only time you see the Snow White movie peaking is when Rachel Zegler was just getting lampooned for her utterly ridiculous comments that she made at D23, I think in September, October 2022, and they were resurfaced in 2023. Or I guess that's 2024. You have it there. So because Snow White's in red, is that correct?
Yes, and if you go back, John, back to 2023, you can see that there was a lot more interest in Snow White, likely because of the controversies that were surrounding. So for folks to understand what this chart is, this is how many times this has been searched for on Google. And that's a really good indicator of interest levels. But sometimes those interest levels are based on people searching to say, did she really say that Prince Charming is a stalker? No way. And they find out, yeah. So, John, this Thunderbolts trailer has no interest that I can tell, no real buzz about it. It is dwarfing Snow White.
Yeah, and the only peak you see with Snow White is when I guess they released that most recent trailer, and you can see that people were not impressed with that. So there was some discussion, but as you said, most of it is due to how ridiculous the dwarfs looked, and then also how they changed that entire scene in the house where she shows up. She thinks that there's a bunch of children that live there, and she cleans the house for them. And where now in in this live action film, she's literally having the dwarfs do the work instead of her doing anything.
John, permission to punch this thing so hard and I guess go out with the biggest bang we possibly can. Do I have permission to do so, sir? Can I show you something that just boggles the mind? Holy moly. John, would you like to know what the yellow is?
Yes, I would. What is that?
You're not going to believe this.
Oh, oh my gosh. Ooh.
So Agatha might not make the Nielsen charts. Agatha is at Willow levels of bad. Agatha is the yellow line, folks. In comparison, I wanted to wait to add this to the very end. I didn't tell John I was going to do this. Snow White is pulling, at its height, pulled 30% of what Agatha pulled with its premiere. And Thunderbolts...
The acolyte now.
Yeah, you want to do it? Okay, here we go, folks. We'll add the acolyte. All right, here we go. Oh my gosh.
There you go. You see where the peak green is? This show was canceled. That show was canceled. It was canceled. Proof is right there. Oh. I mean, you can't make it up.
So, John, to bring it back to the original point, $500 million is what the source is saying. Scrambling to get this thing fixed as best they can on the cheap. That is the rumor. That is what we're following. And I don't see a good ending in sight for Disney. I don't see a happily ever after for Rachel Zegler and Snow White. And I would just recommend to companies out there, perhaps it's time to thin out those who push your corporations heavily into woke. John, I'll give you final word.
Yeah, maybe Bob Iger needs to continue to follow the David Zaslav strategy over at Warner Brothers Discovery and Batgirl Snow White and just take the impairment.
Take the L, man. Take the L.
They've done
$500 million L.
They did it with Willow. I actually think that probably would save them money because they are going to do irreparable damage to one of their iconic Disney princesses. Yes, I would just say
there's one escape hatch here, John.
Bury it.
There's one escape hatch. And I just want to put this out there in case it happens. There is the very, very slim chance that the Barbie crowd and the Inside Out 2 crowd shows up for Snow White in droves and they just eat it up. There's a chance. But that film, because we're not talking about marketing, Snow White is going to need about $1.2 billion, I think, to break even. That's my speculation. So you're going to need to be really, really successful with the Barbie crowd. Don't know if it'll happen, but that's what Disney is hoping. Folks, you can check out great analysis from John F. Trent over at www.thatparkplace.com, as well as the Trent Report. John, thank you so much for being here today. It's an honor every time we have you on, and I can say that it's been a blessing to have you as a colleague, a friend, and watching you continue to replicate what you have done so well in the past, which is win, 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 and push pop culture in the right direction. Congratulations one more time.
Thank you so much, and thank you for the opportunity to work with you. I've really enjoyed it. This hasn't even been a year yet, but it's been awesome.
Moving and grooving, folks, moving and grooving. All right, you can help us move and groove with this video. Click that like button, share, subscribe, click it, stick it to the algorithms. It is the notification bell. Drop a comment right on down below. Let us know your thoughts and tell us, will you be part of the hordes of individuals going to support Snow White and the 7 CGI monstrosities? We'd love to know. Folks, until the next time we have the honor of spending time with you, we can't wait, but we will, and we will say this on the way out. Keep learning, keep growing, and as always, keep having fun.
Wilton, what are you doing?
Well, word on the street is the culture war has officially made it to the doorstep of that park place. And I realized Jonas has no one there who loves him. So I thought I should go and protect them.
Yeah, okay. You know that's not, how you do this, right?
Do what? Fight? Don't worry, Floral. I will not be intimidated by a criminal threat.
Threat? Wilton, don't be ridiculous.
What does it matter to me? I have only one life to lose.
I mean, I totally expected you to die walking into traffic, but,
They may take our lives, but they'll never take our freedom!
Okay, just stop. This is just nonsense. You already have one of the easiest and most effective tools and weapons at your fingertips.
My axe?
No.
Oh.
The truth. Stay smart and ready to tell and share the truth by keeping up to date with WDW Pro, That Park Place, as well as Valiant Renegade. Don't
And Jonas? I mean, he does things with Vash, and that's not very reassuring. That's like putting 2 helpless chipmunks into a piranha pond.
That's neither true nor accurate. Unlike the team from That Park Place.
Sue me.
Ugh.